So I've got 10 minutes here to talk to you about our Commuter program. But before we kind of get into that, I really want to touch a little bit about the history of Patagonia, as it kind of really sets the context for the framing of what we do today from a commuter perspective. So Patagonia started a long time ago as not actually making the clothing that probably a lot of folks are wearing on their commutes every day, but it started as a climbing company. That picture is Yvon Chouinard, our founder, who started making hardware for climbing the walls in Yosemite. And he was an avid climber, went up there every year, and then would come back down to Ventura, which is just a little bit north of Los Angeles, and had a blacksmith shop, and he would make tools to use to climb. And he, after a few years, noticed that the hardware that he was using and creating to climb, they were called pitons, so it's kind of like a big nail that you would drive into the rock, into cracks in Yosemite, and then you would clip your rope to it, and you'd continue going up higher, and then you'd bang that nail out of the crack. He began to notice that those things it was defacing the environment that he was trying to enjoy. And for Yvon, that just was unacceptable in terms of having a business model that ruined the environment that he was so adamant about enjoying and protecting. And so over the course of 1 year, and you can see on the pictures there on the left-hand side, those are pitons, those, that we drive into the rock. And over the course of 1 year, he came back and worked with all his employees and said, we can't be creating a business that's going to harm the environment. And so we're going to switch our business model. And the picture on the right there is Yvon with a bunch of, we call them chalks or nuts, which is kind of a different way of climbing, different climbing hardware. And he completely switched his business model around over the course of one season. And for him, it was not something that the market asked him to do, but it was just kind of built up out of a deep ethos that business should be used to create positive good in the environment. And so that led Patagonia to creating the first mission statement, which is build the best product, cause no unnecessary harm, and use business to inspire and implement solutions to the environmental crisis. So over the past 45 or so years that Patagonia has been in business, we've used that mission statement to drive a lot of our programming, looking at recycled materials, to joining up with 1% for the Planet, or B Corp, or to creating a warmware program, or speaking adamantly about the protection of our wild spaces. And so those programs have been part of what we've done as a company, large part related to the products that we make. But it also, we really try to integrate our employees into kind of the mission of the company that we're doing. And so we have, we've been able to volunteer with nonprofits over the years, et cetera. But in 2010, when we all witnessed the Deepwater Horizon event and travesty, we at Patagonia, we're like, okay, we use petroleum. We use petroleum for our polyester, our nylons, shipping products across the globe. What can we do to begin divesting from petroleum? And we do that through a lot of different ways of our products and everything, but we really wanted to kind of take that ethos of moving away from fossil fuels and bringing that to our employees as well. And so that event really inspired the creation of our sustainable commuting program, which we called Drive Less. And so kind of like was this way of equipping our employees, who are really the ambassadors of our brand, who are the ethos of what we do as a company, and wanted to give them tools and inspiration to reduce their own reliance on petroleum. And so we created two programs specifically. One is, there's Global Bike to Work Week. We started having kind of a localized one in all of our stores and competitions, riding little bikes around. But we also created what we call our Drive Less program. And for us, we really wanted to give incentive to the employees. And so what we created was a monetary compensation for anyone who avoided the single occupant vehicle commute into work. We gave everyone $2 per commute direction, so up to $4 a day, for if they chose to forego single occupant vehicle transportation into work, and would ride their bikes, skateboard, walk, carpool, vanpool, etc. And so we've been doing that since 2010. And it's been a big success. Last year alone, we avoided 855,000 car trip miles through this program. We have roughly, I'd say probably 1,200 to 1,500 employees on the program. We currently only have it in the North America region as it exists like this. Our other global regions have their own programs. But that is, something we really wanted to do to give power to our employees to make creative and positive change in the environment. So we've been running that for a number of years now. But just a little bit ago, we as a company changed our mission statement. So from the one that was more focused on products and causing no unnecessary harm, a few months ago, we came out with a new statement, which is what you see on screen, which says we're in business to save our own planet. Because we realized that, just avoiding some commuter miles and avoiding some polyester or fossil fuel use through operations is not big enough to address the environmental crisis that we all see in front of us today. And it's time to get a little bit more aggressive in solving these solutions. And one of the ways we're doing that is, as a company, we're striving to become climate neutral through our entire business by 2025. So looking at our supply chain, our own operations, as well as bringing in kind of the impacts that our employees have. And so thinking about this commuting program, for those greenhouse gas accountants out there, and knowing that employee commuting is part of kind of the scope 3 emissions of our business, and then having people come into work is part of the responsibility that we need to take. And so we're looking at integrating that. In full disclosure, we have not quantified that to this point, but are really hoping to use the Ride Amigos platform and other tools to really measure our impacts and really significantly reduce our reliance of our employees on single occupant vehicle commuting, as well as other forms as well. And so with the kind of that North Star out there, we really do see our employees as being, kind of the people who are going to drive this change in both at work and at home, and then on the commute to and from. And so we're going to continue our program, our incentive program, and starting to integrate it more and more into our business strategy, which is, I think, something that is kind of like the new focus of really bringing everything into the strategic environment. And at Patagonia, we always try to have as much fun as possible. So even though we're facing a climate crisis in front of us, we still want to have fun and make sure that it's a good way to create positive change. And biking and all these other great ways of sustainable commuting are a really tangible way that we can encourage our employees to do that. So that is all I've got right now. So happy to kind of answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Paul. So we do have a few questions, and I'm going to just kick it off here for the first one. How do you track employee participation in the Drive Less program? Are employees self-reporting that?
They are self-reporting that, yes. So we use the Ride Amigos platform, and we kind of put the onus on people to be honest in what they're commuting. And so we can pull reports and we can see who's doing it, how many people are doing it, but we don't check up on it. It's kind of an honor system to make sure people are logging the right commutes and everything.
Okay. What other ROI metrics might you be tracking, if any, to justify the spend on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And honestly, a lot of the things we do tend not to have kind of an ROI that you would see on an accounting ledger, for example, but what we do is Yvonne, our owner, has always said every time he's done the right thing for the environment, it's actually been good for business. And we know that kind of decreasing our footprint is important. We know that keeping employees engaged, we're very fortunate. A lot of the employees who come to Patagonia are coming here for a reason and to follow into that mission. And so supporting them and encouraging kind of a supportive work environment, which compensates for sustainable commuting, is really important to keeping employees here longer. And so we've got folks who have been here since the beginning of Patagonia. And so I would say we don't have a direct ROI other than if you add up all the other all the things that we feel like we're doing altruistically, and we always do them very much altruistically because we feel like it's the right thing to do. It's led to Patagonia being a very successful company, and I don't think we are ashamed from saying that. Like doing the right thing for the environment is also leads to good economic return.
And I think this audience can relate to that. We have so many questions coming in for Paul. I think we might have time for one more. Are you doing anything to incentivize other modes than carpool, like transit, van pool, biking? And then do you have any idea how much remote working is happening among Patagonia employees?
Yeah, so we do reward other forms, and I probably just skipped over that, but yeah, public transportation, carpool, van pool, biking, walking, anything that's a single occupant vehicle form of transportation, we compensate through this program, because a lot of our, some of our places like and where our stores are in like Chicago or New York, public transport is the way to get around, also as biking. So we want to reward people for doing that type of thing. And what was the second part of that question?
Do you have any idea how many people are actually doing telework?
Yeah, it's not a huge part of our employee base does telecommuting. It's a few, and people do it occasionally here and there. But we do have a lot of the folks. A lot of our employees are retail staff, and so they're in the stores all the time. And then here in our headquarters, most people do come in on a regular basis. So it's pretty small in terms of the remote commuting. We do have a very social type of atmosphere here, and so do enjoy kind of the face-to-face interactions.